Hi everybody, I'm just going to get this link up in our event page and hopefully we have a few people join us and we'll be talking about dreams today. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. All right, let's see if we can share this. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. So I was really interested in talking about dreams today because I've been noticing everybody posting on the forum about this. Let me just see if I can get this video to share. All right. All right, now I'm back. Let's see, we have a couple of viewers. I'm trying to see if I can see. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm a little out of practice, but this is just a casual get-together. So if you want to make a comment in the video below, if you have a question, then feel free to do that. I would like this to be interactive. Usually I use Zoom for this because I can record it, but I know everybody doesn't have the software for that, and so I thought Facebook would be a good place to do that. So we will just be using this. All right, so I see, hi Sherry, I think Sherry's on here, and I'll just wait a few more minutes. And if you join us, just put a little comment down there so that way I know who's on this video with us. So I'm just going to talk about dreams a little bit in general here, and why they're so important to us, and really the importance of interpreting your own dreams and learning how to do it. It should be something that's very natural to all of us because you spend over a third of your life either sleeping or dreaming. Even if you can remember your dreams, there's various reasons for that. I'm not going to delve into that too much today, but for the most part, we all have a very active dream life. And considering that you spend a third of your life in a different reality or a different realm, whatever you consider that to be, that's pretty significant. Although a lot of people will say that they have weird dreams or strange dreams, it's actually not the case. Maybe we say those things to sort of preface the dream symbology of what we're about to share with another person, and so we almost excuse our dreams away. So I was preparing this morning, and lieu of meditation, I was going through the forum just looking at some of the dreams on there, and I haven't been able to respond as much as I want to with some of the changes that we have going on. But it's always interesting to me how we tend to dream in groups, or there's these themes that show up frequently. So the reason that I try to encourage people to talk about their dreams, because to you what might seem like a strange or an odd dream, there might be 3 or 4 other people that you're connected to that are having similar dreams. So we have to kind of look at what dreams are to start with. And this is something that has been looked at from so many different perspectives throughout the years. I think as long as there's been human beings on the planet, we've probably been talking about dreams. And it's something that happens regardless of your age or your health. It's almost an automatic part to us. So to consider, 6 years of an average lifespan, that you're in communication with your higher self or a different aspect of you, looking at your dreams as dream language is really important. And so if you've talked to me one-on-one in any situation and I talk about dreams, I'll always tell you dreaming is like a language on its own. Meditation, talking to your higher self, is a language the same way that we use English or French or Spanish. It's how we convey things to one another. But I think the thing that is maybe different about the dream language is that it's experience. So what I mean by that, I can type a bunch of words on here, and when you read that information, you might infer what emotions I have or what I feel about that. But speaking to you, I can actually send that vibration out with you, you know, as the vibration comes out of my mouth, and that you can hear the tones. It becomes an experience for you. And I was thinking the best way to explain this is maybe going back to, maybe back to childhood, because I've always loved dreams. And I can't recall dreams from my childhood, so I can't tell you like any specific dreams, but I know I've always loved dreaming, because my nightlife has always been very active. And I was probably in the 3rd grade. So we have standard, so standard 1, I think that's 3rd grade here. And I only spoke one language up to that point, which is Afrikaans. It's my native language that I speak in South Africa, where I'm from. And in the 3rd grade, the school that you're in is when you start learning your 2nd language. So going to an Afrikaans school, we were first introduced to English in the 3rd grade, and then later on you get to choose at least 1 or 2 other languages that you have to take. And I remember, and I didn't make the connection till today, but I remember sitting in English class and being so confused and not understanding, seeing the words, even simple words like run, walk, you know. I had to form a frame of reference of what those alphabet letters mean so that I can make it an experience, so I can understand and relate it to my knowledge base that I have already acquired in this lifetime, you know, through my parents and all those things. So how do I know that run in English means the same as hardloop in Afrikaans? I have to have a visual image. It has to be an experience for me. And I remember my English teacher saying the words, these are the first English words I ever learned, was I am. And she was explaining to us to when to add an S after a word. So if it's a singular form, then very often you would add an S on the end, because that's the S would reference like a stick. It's like a walking stick. So if you're by yourself, you need a walking stick for support. Made sense to me because we're living in Africa, so we're outside a lot, so we knew what a walking stick, you know, would mean. Whereas if it is a multiple, that S would drop off because you're in a group and there is security in group. So that was her little explanation that she explained to this class of third graders. But I remember the word I am, or the phrase I am, stood out to me this morning, and how often we've been using that, especially over the last few years in our own meditations and spiritual work, and you hear that phrase a lot. And so that just stood out to me, that it has to be an experience, because that experience invokes feeling and emotion, and you're using your senses, and all your senses really are incorporated into that: hearing, feeling, sensing, seeing. And so it's a very, I don't want to say convoluted, but it's a, what's the word? Multidimensional, multi-sensory experience that you're having when you're in your dream state. Even the word dream, the root of the language, means joy or music. And so when I hear those two words together, music, automatically I go to vibration. And there was actually a comment on the forum, or on our Facebook group this week, about somebody that had a dream about a singing bowl or something that she had to tune. And so I thought that was very appropriate, kind of leading into this, that we talk so much about vibration and frequency and things, but what does that really mean? It's your I am that is going out into, anyway, we're not going to get too deep into that, but joy in music, for me, that describes the feeling when I think about dreaming, or when I set my dream intent at night, or when I wake up in the morning and before I even open my eyes, I'm just laying there and I'm just absorbing everything that I just experienced. That helps with dream recall. You don't, I mean, we say, you know, write your dreams down, have a journal, all those things help. But if you do it enough, it should become automatic, where as I'm laying there, I'm just recalling the little bits and pieces of my dream that I can remember, sort of locking them into my experience. I know that I'm set up for the day. So I wanted to look at some of the different types of dreaming that we have, and a little bit more specifically about the dream symbology. And I don't necessarily want to talk about lucid dreaming, but I do want to quickly touch on that. Lucid dreaming is not just about controlling your dreams, it's about self-awareness. You have an awareness of yourself in a different state, whether it's a different state of mind or a different state of being. You have a whole different level of self-awareness. So it's not as much about control, oh, what can I do, what can I manipulate? It's about self-awareness. And so the action of dreamings, your dreams provide access to very vital information to you, and it comes directly from your higher self. Higher self, to me, could be what you consider the deepest aspect of your soul or your source, but it's I don't like using, you know, high and low, because sometimes it separates us out. But for me, that idea of deepest self, or the part of me that is most clear, that is not obstructed by my human beliefs or the influences from things that are maybe not in harmony with me, or you know, because most of us, no matter what your spiritual path is, nobody's in alignment 100% of the time, all the time. If you were that, you probably wouldn't be on the planet to start with. So it's about walking that line in the middle. And so there was a good video that Anne had shared as well about that I recommend watching. But so your dreams provide access to vital information for you. And so why dream symbolism? This is something that I fought for a long time. It's like, why do I need symbols in my dreams? You know, can my higher self or whatever aspect I'm connecting to, can it just use English? Can it just speak directly? You know, do this, do that, you know, connect to this, clear this up in your life. And it wouldn't mean the same thing to me, because it wouldn't be experienced. So the dream symbols, everything in your dream means something, but it doesn't mean that you have to overthink it. So very often we say, meet people at the place that they're at. And I would recommend to you, meet yourself where you're at with your dreams. So if you're trying to recall a dream or trying to analyze your dream, don't worry about starting necessarily at the beginning and the end, and forcing yourself to remember an accurate timeline of how the dream unfolded, but rather just let it naturally come to you in bits and pieces. Because very often you'll remember a portion of the dream, and then later you're like, oh, I remember this part and that part. And that's totally okay. So your dream is a window to yourself, and I use self with capital S-E-L-F. It's the part of you that has the most clear information for you. One of the other themes that I noticed as I was going through some of the dreams that people were asking about, and a lot of it centered around your personal power, which is your personality, your intellect, your spirituality, the idea of who you are, your life experience. is about acknowledgement. We have to acknowledge our dreams first. We have to acknowledge the things that happen in our dreams. Every person wants to be validated or acknowledged in some way. It doesn't necessarily make it a good or a bad thing. It's just something we all want to know that, or we all try to measure ourselves. So being able to recall your dreams and remember these bits and pieces is you acknowledging them. It's acknowledging yourself. And when you start doing that, you start bringing those dream, maybe the advice from your dreams, or the dream symbology, or the realizations from your dream that is maybe on such a deep level that you don't really know how to put the pieces together yet. But when you just acknowledge that you're having dreams and looking at the individual pieces, it comes into your reality. It starts to change your life. And so we can look at the timing of dreams, that if you're not connected to your dreams at all, meaning that you're not really looking for at what your dreams mean, you might have dreams now that pertain to 3 or 4 years down the road. And when those things actually happen in your life, you might not make the connection at all that you received this piece of information like way back when. And I'm noticing that a lot in my life and my dream work that I do. There are major changes that have happened through our life in this year that came up in dreams 2 or 3 years ago. And the reason that I can remember them is because they were significant to me. So it brings us to the kinds of dreams that we have. We have lucid dreaming. You have nightmares, which is really a whole different thing too. We'll touch on that a little bit in a while here. But most people have signal dreams, is what I would call them. Meaning that you receive signals in your dream tonight that really helps you for your next day, or maybe the day after, the things that are in your sort of immediate future. Because if we're talking about living in the moment now, then our dreams are going to be for now. It's going to show us the backdrop of what we're processing emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. It's going to show our connections to other people, but almost overarching all of that, it's your connection to your highest self, because that is the big picture view. And so your dreams are, as weird as they seem, are very personal, and it's your own language. So we can look at dream books. I have 3 right here. This is an old one. I don't ever use it. For me, it's old and outdated. The time period that it comes from, we're not in that time anymore. So looking at something like this, I just can't relate to it at all. So, but it's interesting to look at to see how we've kind of evolved through it. Then I have this book, which I absolutely love. Let's see if I can get that. And this was recommended to me by a friend years ago. And the reason I liked it is because it broke your dreams down into actions and categories. And so it was pretty nifty, but there were still some things in there that I just didn't relate to. I would read through some of the dream symbols, and I think a lot of you have probably found that as well. You look up a dream, or maybe go to Dream Moods, which is another website that I like, or that I used to use a lot years ago. But I would read through it, and I'm like, yeah, I can see how that might pertain, you know, generally speaking, but I don't have that connection to it. I don't see how this fits into my life, because I was looking at somebody else's interpretation of what my dreams meant. So I have my own internal library of information, just like you do. Your life experience is all wrapped up into you, and that is the source of your dreams. That's the sort of the movie of your dreams. Okay, so let's get into some dreaming here. This is the book that Anne recommended on the group this week, and I ordered it, I think, in a different timeline because it didn't come, and then I had to order it again. So it's finally here, and I absolutely love it. because this to me reads like a dictionary. So for me, saying that dreams are like language and then having a dictionary to go with it instead of somebody else's interpretation has really kind of bridged the gap for me there. So the first dream I wanted to look at is a dream that Kenzie had posted, and I'm not going to go through the whole dream. You can look it up if you want to, but some of the major elements in the dream is that there was a table, and it had spiky edges to it, and it reminded her of a singing bowl. So I should have brought my singing bowl. So singing bowl is a copper bowl, and it's tempered. There's different kinds of ones, or a crystal bowl, and you run the mallet around the edge, and it creates sound. And this is used in chanting a lot of times, and did a beautiful interpretation on that. But these are some of the elements I wanted to go over to show you some of the very small details in the dreams that we sometimes overlook. So in the dream, this singing bowl table, if you want to call it that, and the person having the dream already had the wooden little mallet in her hand, and she had a knowing of what to do and what was going to happen in the dream. And she tried to mimic what the sound in the dream. So one of the things that really stood out to me when I started looking at that is asking, well, what is if this even the language that she used to describe the dream was important, because what is a singing bowl usually made out of? It's made of copper. This is not something that she even, posted in the dream. It reminds me of this. So looking at what copper means would be interesting too. So this typically represents your knowing, your intellect. It is thinking about the action of a singing bowl as you run that wooden mallet around the bowl, and it starts vibrating. It starts making sound. And where does that sound go? It's like a wave that goes out from there. And so this is something that's telling me there's something inside of you, the inner knowing, that either wants to or needs to or is trying to come out. There's this outward flow of energy. And it's used for communication, because what do we use sound for? Is to communicate with one another. Table. What do we do with a table? Typically, we either learn on a table, like I have my books over here, or we eat at a table. That's what traditionally tables are used for. So what is food in a dream? That would be knowledge. It's something that I'm taking in. So you can already start to see some things, some information unfolding that wasn't even necessarily listed as part of the initial explanation of the dream. So there's information coming and going. There's a flow to that. So it just talks about communication, the support that she has. And table is also a place that we prepare things. So now you can start to see, we can take a very simple image of a table in the middle of the room and already know that your dream has something to do with knowledge, with support, with your personality, really, because this is who you are, and an inner knowing. The other part that was interesting about that too is when she used the word mimic. She said I was trying to mimic something in the dream. Well, when we mimic something, is we're copying something else. It's not something that is necessarily true or authentic to us. So what are we trying to mimic? So if you kind of stand back and then looking at a dream like that where somebody is simply trying to make a noise come out of a table, you can see that the higher self is energetically connecting with us to try and communicate and say that we can mimic things around us. It has to be authentic. It has to come from you. You have to connect to your own inner knowledge and make your own sound and your own vibration. So there's just one little aspect of looking deeper into a dream. The other part that I was looking at was when I first posted that we were going to do a little get-together today, Jennifer commented on there that she would love to participate, but she doesn't really remember her dreams right now, but she's experiencing a lot of deja vu, which, again, has been happening to more and more of us. And so it brings in the aspect of why sometimes we can't remember dreams. Is it something that you ate, or is it medication, or is it stress? You know, that's some of the typical things that we look at. But sometimes it could be that perhaps you're in the place where you're experiencing the flowering or the blooms of seeds that you've planted in the past. So going back to dreams that you might have had 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe even 6 months ago, or the last dreams that you can remember. If you can remember your dreams now, think back about what dreams you can remember. It'll come to you. And sometimes we have these epic dreams where you will just remember them for the rest of your life because they were so profound, so impactful. There was so much emotion and feeling involved that you don't have to write them down. But the aspect of having then deja vu connected with not remembering your dreams, that's also showing that there's something going on. So everything in life is about cycles and patterns and ebb and flow. And so you're not going to remember your dreams all of the time. And you're not going to not remember your dreams. Nothing stays the same. So that's something that was really interesting, I thought, to mention too, that maybe it's just a different way of you looking at if you're trying to remember your dreams and you feel like you're having difficulty, is seeing what's flowering in your life right now. What fruit are you bearing? Or what is there in your life that needs your attention? It could also mean that maybe there's something to leave behind. So typically what our dreams do is they help us either face or confront or address certain feelings and emotions that we have. That can be things from a long time ago or something that you might be going through. But the act of remembering your dreams increases your self-awareness and your knowledge, and also healing. And so it gets you in touch with your feelings. So on the other end of the spectrum, it could be something where if you're sort of frozen in your emotions, or if you're afraid to feel, or you're maybe not willing to face something. These are just some of the ideas that are coming to mind. But this idea of sort of like not feeling, that can also cause you to not remember your dreams. So it's not just one way or the other. So just some things to keep in mind if you're trying to remember dreams. I had a dream this week where, and I'm going to have to look up this one symbol because I actually forgot what it meant. But I had a dream that I was in my car and I got out and I was walking through some buildings into a field, and a man walked up to me, and not remembering what the conversation was, I know the action in the dream sort of had my back towards a trailer, like a camping trailer, and I knew that there was a door behind me, and I thought, I don't want to have my back to the door because if somebody comes out, I'm not going to know who they are, and so I want to be safe. I don't know who this person is. And in the dream, I had a plate in my hand with crystals, and I told this man, here, you can just have all the crystals. and I rarely dream about crystals, but what was really stood out to me, the part that I looked up, was when I looked at the plate in my hands, I wanted to make sure that I was wearing both of my rings. So I usually wear these 2 rings, my wedding ring, and a silver ring that I have. And looking at the properties of the rings, something I never would have looked at before. So what does silver mean? What does gold mean? What's the significance of being on the left hand and the right hand? And so I wanted to share with you here what silver was. Oops. Silver. So that was on my right hand, and for me, the right side of our body is things that are happening in your life right now. So for me, that represents my current life, so to speak, and my left represents my past or past lives, if you want to think it in that sense. So this is something I was looking at my spirituality in this lifetime. Silver stands for the spiritual element that exists for everyone. It's like our silver cord. The key here is to recall what form the dream silver took and what was being done with it and by whom. And so the fact that it was in something that is precious and sentimental and a ring, you can then further look into that. Ring meaning it will reveal how one perceives oneself. Was the ring gold or silver? So this is something that's interesting. My wedding ring, you'll see it has a, there we go. My wedding ring's been cut for the last 14 years. When I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, I couldn't get my wedding ring off, and so we had to cut it off. I have never ever had it fixed. Every attempt that we've had to take it in just never works out. And eventually I just thought, well, I'm just going to wear it like that. And when I look at the deeper symbolism, because we can always dig deeper into things, where am I in my life? What is my connection to my spirituality, or where's my self-awareness at? A ring is something that is unbroken. It's complete, it's whole. And so it's very metaphoric for me to then, in this dream, that is a symbol that would be overlooked so easily, to say, well, the way I look at myself and my connection to my spirituality in the past might have been disconnected. Might have been disconnected to my relationships, or whatever the case may be. Or just disconnect to my higher self. And in this life and the work that I do everything has been about connecting to ourselves. So it's just interesting. One of those interesting things I thought I would bring up, because sometimes we skip over information, or we say that, oh, this part's not important, but every little thing is like a word in a language. And if you're going to make a sentence, you can't leave 4 or 5 words out of the sentence and have a full understanding of what is being communicated to you. And that's why dream analysis is so personal, because this wouldn't have meant anything to anybody else. So you are the best interpreter of your dreams, and keep it simple. Even if you just write down one word, okay, what does this one word mean? What can I do with it? What is the purpose of it? What's the usefulness? That's really the word that comes to mind. What's the usefulness of this object or this action of what's happening in the dream? The other thing is about nightmares. A lot of people will have recurring dreams, or nightmares, or things will happen in their dream that they might not be really comfortable with. And the reason that this happens, in my opinion, is that because you're in a different state of being, that sometimes it is much easier for us to look at the full picture of what's happening, or what we need to deal with in our life, in a space like that, where we might not have that clarity or perspective in our day-to-day life because, you know, maybe you're stressed or whatever the case may be. So nightmares are an indication that there are certain things, certain fears, or worries in your life that need to be addressed. They need to be acknowledged. It brings us back to that word of acknowledgement. So the one thing that I always tell people, and this is what comes not from me, but from all the people that I've worked with in their higher selves, tell us over and over again that we are always fully informed as to what's happening to us. If there's a manual to life or a guidebook, a roadmap, then it's going to be your dreams. It helps when we do it in a group like this because it pulls you out a little bit where you don't have tunnel vision, or maybe you're trying too hard. And so somebody else might just offer a little bit of an alternative view or perspective that then allows you to make that shift. So it's really good to share your dreams, to get up in the morning and have, you know, a friend or your partner or, you know, somebody in your life that you can share your dreams with. They don't have to interpret it for you, but it just gives you an opportunity to just bring it into your reality, making it real, something that's tangible, because well, the thing that I'm thinking about now is dreams are not to be taken lightly. And if you look at a lot of the sacred texts that we have, the role of dreamers in these sacred texts and in the various belief systems that people involve themselves with, it's always held to a higher power or a higher standard. So regardless of all the junk that we're going through down here, your higher self is always going to maintain that connection with you, but you have the job to keep yourself clear, meaning that before you go to bed at night, you have to set an intent for your dream. You're the driver of your car. You're the one that decides you know, what happens to you or what experience you're going to participate in. You're the one that decides how you're going to feel about things. So it's not, and this is where I feel sometimes people expect to get more from their dreams, but they don't necessarily put the work in for it. So for me, that's one of my favorite parts at night, is when I first close my eyes, is I start creating that dream world for myself. I'll imagine myself, you know, maybe being in a dreamscape, or like kick off your dreaming. Or sometimes I'll set an intent and say, I just want to have the most appropriate dream. Or like last night, I dreamt, before I went to sleep, I said, I have a new dream book. I would like to have a dream that would use this book to communicate with me. So this morning when I woke up, I had a dream that I was on an airplane, and the airplane was coming into land, and it was on a runway, but it was right on the coast. And this airplane didn't go off the runway. Apparently this was part of the runway, went onto the water, and I knew that the water was a solid surface. The surface of the water, of the ocean, was frozen. And so we had to sort of make a landing and then come back, and then we were on land. And when I started looking at the symbolism of that, when we talk about airplanes, these are things that are very high spiritual elements, because literally an airplane is in the heavens. So it connects us to a spirituality. The fact that that spirituality, or that aspect of my higher self, has come down to land means that I'm grounding myself, maybe not necessarily into the land, but more into the spiritual aspect of me. There were other elements in the dream as well, which was I knew that the surface of the water was frozen, but at the same time I heard in the dream that the radar can't detect beyond 7 feet below, and I knew that it was sort of dark below there. And so if you look at the finer detail of that, what does frozen mean? Immediately frozen it can mean stuck, or it could say, because we're talking about water, again, water is spirituality, it's consciousness. So there is an aspect of our consciousness that can appear to be frozen or stuck, or inflexible. And then what's below the surface? There's depth below that. And even the aspect of it being dark below that is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's saying there are depths to who you are or to what you're experiencing that you can't perceive yet. Your radar, your human radar, can only detect so much. And so you have to sort of forge your way. I'm trying to think of a better way to explain that. Like, you are the one that explored the depths of who you are. And so if you're always going to be on the surface, then that's where you're going to meet yourself at. So all these dream symbols show us the other elements of where we are, like our navigation system of like, here's the universe or the realm of who you are, and this is where you're in it. This is what's available to you, and this is how you get there. So your dreams are like a roadmap for you. The other element that's come up a lot on our group recently is dreams with snakes. I myself had a dream with that where I was trying to run away from a snake. The first thing that comes to mind with that is our Kundalini. It's our energy. It's our power. It's our nervous system. It's our spiritual energy. There was one beautiful example of somebody that was had a snake in their dream, and they were very methodically, very slowly cutting up the snake in the dream. And the interpretation that was given for the person really accentuated how we sort of water down our personal power. Meaning that we're always excusing ourselves away, or we're toning ourselves down, or apologizing for ourselves. We're saying, oh, I'm too sensitive, I'm just, I'm too shy, or I'm just a strong personality. People need to take you just the way that you are. And so how do they do that if you don't even know who you are? If you're not sort of facing your own experiences with your own emotions and feelings and what you've gone through in life, and sort of closing yourself off to it under the pretense of protecting yourself, then you can necessarily have a real deep, and I want to almost separate those two words, as clear expression of who you are. And so this is why we go through different situations in our life, and why a lot of things are emotionally charged for us. And our dreams are the place that we go and we try things out and we change it, and we get the information that we need, and we bring it into our daily life, and we live and we interact with people, but that's where we leave it. And we think of it as something separate from ourselves. We don't think of our dreams being a part of our waking life, and we really have to kind of merge those two, and know that those two realms are sort of, it's not that they're on top of one another, but they're interconnected to one another. So If there's any questions, I would love to answer any questions that you have. I'll check and see if there's any comments on here. But that's basically, I wanted to just, you know, kind of touch on the aspect of dreaming and why dreaming is so important, and you know, just the language of dreams. It's really the language of your higher self, and it's no different than having your intuition work for you, you know, in any other situation. Even sitting here now, I'm, you know, paying attention to my own intuition and my own inner voice, you know, as to what the most appropriate things are to say. But there's so much that's available to you in your dream world. And I think that a lot of us have just scratched the surface on that. And it's beautiful. There's not one dream, even the most intense dreams that I've had that we would call nightmares, are beautiful to me. Those are the ones that say, hey, pay attention, something's happening, something is important. So instead of shying away from them, or just having these almost preconceived ideas of why we're you know, we had a bad dream, or vilifying that dream, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So just take a step back, put the fear aside, because that's the strongest element that you have in the dream, the strongest feeling that you have, and then start looking at the dream symbolism. You know, what would it mean if I'm having a dream where you know, a clown is chasing me with a knife? You know, that could be really scary. And I don't really prefer clowns, but it's sort of a comical thing too. It's saying, look at the fear that you have. This is something that's sort of a joke. So it just helps you put things in a different perspective, and write down your own dream symbolism. If you have the same symbol come up over and over again, like another one is a white room. So many of you have said, oh, I've dreamt that I was in a white room, or there was this white light. That is your connection, your direct connection to your source. That is the clearest state. It's an aspect of clarity. It's saying you're in a place or in a space, because a lot of times it's a room, where nothing is off limits. You already have the knowledge. You are already enlightened. So ask questions. You know, even if you're thinking about your dreams after you've had them, close your eyes, connect to your I am, or to your higher self, or to a guide, and ask follow-up questions. Be curious. If you follow that curiosity, you'll be amazed at what else you find. So I hope this was helpful. There's, you know, so many different things that we can talk about when it comes to dreams, about, you know, specific symbolism or how to dream. But the one thing that comes up over and over again is just keep it simple. Make it easy. If I'm stranded in the middle of the desert somewhere and I don't have my dream book or the internet or any of these things with me, I still have that connection to my higher self, to know that I'm fully informed and that I can ask questions and that I have guidance. But we get so used to relying on other things and other people that we don't trust our own intuition. And your dreams are sort of like the gateway to your own intuition, to your own knowing, and it's vast. The other thing that I love about dream intent, because there's several people on here that have connections to other beings, or have experiences with other beings during their dream state. And I know I've used this example in a dream talk in the past, but a lot of the work that I've done, through the regression work, I've talked to other beings through my client that's being regressed. I've also had my own experiences, but still, it's not ordinary for us to, you know, sit here and suddenly have a being appear for us to not be startled. Anybody would be startled with that. You know, might even be a little freaked out. just because this is not something that we ordinarily encounter on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things that I did is I just asked, I want to have an experience, and I want the experience to be in my dreams, because that's where we can meet each other, sort of on a level playing field. So just don't scare me. And so I had this dream of being out in a cornfield, like that's not creepy, on my friend's farm, and this little gray being came out of the cornfield and just had on this really silly Hawaiian shirt and a straw hat. And my first words in the dream was, well, great disguise, dude. But it was so perfect, like that's what I asked for. And it was sort of an icebreaker for me, and it made me realize I can really ask for the things that I need in my dream state. And that the more specific I am in my questioning, but then leaving the expectation open, it tunes me to the frequency that I need to be to receive that information then. And so I've done that several times after, where I will ask very specifically, well, I want to know about this situation or this person or this relationship or something about myself. Just an acknowledgement that I need that information then opens up that space. And then if I remember the dream in the morning, great. If not, then I don't worry about it. And maybe it'll come to me later. But 9 out of 10 times something will happen. But again, if you're not used to doing dream work, it might not happen right off the bat. It has to be something that then becomes automatic to you. So you have to put in a little bit of the time and the effort. You have to make it a sort of a new habit for you to make that connection before you go to sleep. And when you wake up in the morning, before you jump out of bed, is just lay there, just absorb all the information, all the energy of this beautiful state that you just came from, and so that you can carry that vibration into your daily life. And I know that this is true for me, and so I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know that this is true because when I set the intent, for instance, with our store that we have, is that everybody that comes into the store, I just want them to find what they need. I don't know what their specific needs are, but I just want them to find what they need. I can use the same for my dream intent. I just want to find what I need. And when people then come in the next day, and I'll greet them and ask them, you know, how are you? How's your day? They'll say, oh, I'm just having the greatest day. It's such a beautiful day. The responses, one after the other, it's noticeable because, you know, I see it with 6 or 7 people in a row, but they don't necessarily notice it because they don't interact with one another. And these are the things that you start to then see in your life as you start to appreciate the simple connections that we have to one another and the flow of information that is always there. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. I'm so happy that we could do this. And thank you for Jennifer and Sherry and Cassie, you were on here, and Jay. I miss you all very much. I know we don't get to talk too much these days, but you're always in my thoughts and in my heart. Love you guys. Bye.